My name is Firefighter Sturgeon. I work for McConnell Air Force Base Fire Department in Kansas. I've been here about 6 years, and within that time frame I've been able to obtain my Fire Inspector 1 certification, and I am currently working on finishing up my Fire Inspector 2 certification. However, I do work on the ops floor riding the trucks, but I am able to perform some company fire inspections with that. So getting into it, I would like to talk briefly today about some education, enforcement, and also engineering that we do here at McConnell, kind of our mission, what we do, how we get the community involved. So with that, starting with education, along with many other fire departments, we conduct a fire prevention or a fire prevention week in October. We had just finished that up. However, we do a lot of events with that. We go to the elementary school on base and bring Sparky with us. One of our Air Force airmen will get in the Sparky costume or outfit, and we will work on stop, drop, and roll as far as what to do if the kids do have a house fire. We talk about their evacuation plans, what their family plans is. You know, if there's smoke in the house or a fire, they need to get out of the house. They need to come up with a designated meeting point, whether that be across the street at a fire hydrant or a specific tree or at the neighbor's house. Whatever that may be, they need to decide on that and stay there until their parents get there so they can be accounted for. We also put on an annual fire muster event at the fire station. That consists of people from other shops throughout the base. They will create a team of about 4 people, and we create more of a challenge course type of setting, to where there's events like rolling out 5-inch hose. They have to roll it back up. They have to use a sledgehammer on a Kaiser sled to simulate forcible entry, and other various fireground operations. They're doing this while wearing helmets, gloves, and SCBA packs. So it kind of gives them an idea, kind of the physical aspect of what we go through when we are on the fire scene or the fireground operations. We do it timed, and the winners will win prizes, things like that. After that's done, we usually do a grill out or grill hot dogs, hamburgers, things like that. Have a lunch with the community, that everyone's welcome to come, and we'll give a short presentation as far as fire safety tips for at home and also in their workplace on base. And we usually get a pretty good turnout with that. We seem to have more and more people every year, so we try to make it fun, not just grill people with fire safety tips, try to involve them, let them do something they're interested in, while we can get those key points in there to them. They're a little more likely to listen. So when it comes to code enforcement, we do our standard inspections, yearly inspections on the buildings around base. We have 2 full-time fire inspectors that they work Monday through Friday, and they conduct the majority of the fire inspections. However, we do complete some company level inspections. Generally, a truck will do 2 to 3 inspections a month. With that, we have a pretty good relationship with most of the occupants around the base. We're a little bit smaller than a standard city department would deal with, so we can get on more of a personal level with some of the facility managers as to where they know what we're expecting, and we can allow a reasonable effort from them to kind of tidy up their areas and make sure everything's good to go. Usually we don't run into too many issues. The main things we usually see are appliances plugged into extension cords, not directly into the wall. A few things like storage, sometimes they'll get boxes stacked too high that are going to impede the sprinkler systems, but most of the time they're able to correct them immediately. We don't like issuing citations, but we will if we have to, and most of them understand that we're just trying to protect them and everyone around them to try to avoid fires. Usually, if it's something they can't fix immediately, we'll give them a reasonable amount of time to fix it. The facility managers don't pay for the maintenance and everything on the building. That's funded through the Air Force. So we have a system online to where they can go in and enter in the work order, what the problem is and what needs to be corrected. So the maintenance department for the base has a priority level, and once that priority comes up, then they'll come fix it. If it's something we feel needs to be fixed immediately or right away, then it's something we can call over to the department and let them know, hey, we're with the fire department. We think this is a pretty decent hazard that we'd like to have corrected a little bit sooner than what's on the priority list. So for the most part, we usually don't run into problems with that. Everyone works together and gets things knocked out. And then after that, whatever the timeline is set for them to have it fixed, we'll usually go back out and double check it. But for the most part, we usually don't have an issue with it. So when it comes to local jurisdiction and how we apply codes to new and existing structures, again, we only do fire inspections on the Air Force Base. We respond to mutual aid out in the county and the city, but we don't do inspections for them. So with the inspections, new and existing structures, we're going to follow the UFC, the facility codes, and also NFPA. So that's what we govern. There are also a few DoD codes set in place in the Department of Defense that are Air Force wide, that aren't site specific. They'll apply to all the Air Force bases, and we have those documents available to us on our Air Force SharePoint websites that we can use. So it usually depends on the occupancy type of what's required. So for our base, we just had a new shooting range installed. It's where all the military members can go to qualify on whatever weapon they need to be mission ready. And within that, we'll follow NFPA standards, the UFC standards, and then also the DoD specific standards. Some that include certain ventilation systems for removing the smoke after rounds are being fired, or where the exits are located, right? We don't want to have someone using an entrance or an exit that's downrange, potentially could cause hazards. So there's specific ones listed in that, but usually UFC and NFPA are what we use most of the time. However, if it's an existing structure and they're going to make modifications to it or remodel, things like that, they will have to submit a plan to our permanent fire inspectors, and they will review the plans, make sure everything is good to go up to those standards and codes, and they will have to sign off on it before the contractors or any of the military members can start work or complete any of the tasks required. So for local organizations, as far as determining fire resistance of building materials, we don't do any of that locally here. We don't have any in town that test the materials that are being used. Usually we will utilize some of the national laboratory or testing agencies, like for instance Underwriter Laboratories or ASTM, American Society for Testing Materials. We usually budget and purchase materials that have been tested and approved by them. So we don't do any of that locally here. And as far as the testing methods that are used, we have done extensive research, not just at the McConnell level, but Air Force wide, DoD wide, to meet the standards for the testing. So the materials we use have been fire resistance tested. They've had a flame spread test, reaction to fire test, and then also smoke density tests. Those are going to kind of be the standards that we are going to look for when we're purchasing materials for new or existing construction. And how we can apply those to our local jurisdiction as far as inspection and code enforcement. For instance, there's multiple facilities on base that are 24 hours. The fire station, the police station, there's a hotel on base. One thing that I look for is to make sure, the bedroom doors, whatever facility it's at, the bedroom doors have that fire rating. They have that fire resistance rating on them to where if someone's asleep, the doors closed, they're going to be able to have time to get out if a fire starts in that facility. Most of our buildings are type 3 construction. We have a few that are type 2. The only type 5 we have are in the base housing area, but those all have fire alarm systems, smoke detectors, things like that. On the main base, we have a local alarm system that has all of that. Almost all of them are sprinklered, and we have a local monitoring system, a dispatcher 24 hours that monitors our Monaco alarm system. So if a detector is set off, they get a computer alert immediately. So we're able to make response times fairly quick and get things mitigated if need be. So we're fortunate there that most of the time we don't have to wait on a caller to notice it and call it in. So with the code enforcement, everyone cooperates pretty well for the most part. So we're fortunate that we don't have fires very often on the base, but if we do, we're able to get those knocked out pretty quick. So thank you for watching.